Ric Flair is now all elite. Yes, you heard that right. Ric Flair is now all elite. So guessing he was a little more than, just a gift to Sting a couple of weeks ago. He's now part of the team. Where do you see Ric fitting into the AEW landscape moving forward, especially after hearing a deal is done?
When it comes to professional wrestling, if you are talking about it, we are talking about it. Welcome to the WrestleChat Podcast with the Ant-Man.
Welcome to the weekend, y'all, and welcome back to the WrestleChat Podcast. We are on episode 31. Hey, I'm the Ant-Man, excited to break down this week in pro wrestling, and I couldn't do it without my buddy Michael Glavin. Good to see you again, my friend. It's kind of like that we just hit a new FaceTime call, and we invite all you guys in, because this is what me and Michael sit around and chat about all week long distance, our texts. It's like you guys get to get in on some of the texts that we have. Good to have you back, and good to talk some wrestling with you.
Absolutely. You're spot on, without going into the full story. We were in the same space together for a minute with some things we were doing, and we met each other. And first time we met each other, wasn't really any fireworks or anything, but I think it was our second conversation. There was that moment where it's like, wait a minute, you're a wrestling fan? Oh yeah, I'm a wrestling fan. Are you a wrestling fan? Yeah. And then it was like that scene from Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? Do you want to go do karate in the garage? So super stoked to be here. Always excited to chat wrestling with you. So as always, thanks for having me.
Yeah, same. I'm excited to be hanging out with you, and I'm excited that you are here. I'm also excited to announce that we are now iHeart's official weekly wrestling podcast. And I'll be honest, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be announcing that yet, but it's official, and we are working on some big things that we've got coming up here in the next few weeks. I want to say thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, and of course, if you're listening on the free iHeartRadio app, thank you so much for being here again this week. Let's jump right in and kick it off with a question that we left you with last week. Jade Cargill has yet to call out her first victim. Who would you like to see her feud with first? A couple of answers here from our Instagram at WrestleChat Podcast. Ryan Snoopy said Becky Lynch. And listen, I don't hate that. Start right there at the top. Call out the biggest dog in the yard, and let's go at it. I don't mind that at all. We've got another one here. It was actually a message from Matthew Cody. An email firing her would be great. I just don't like her. Her time in AEW soured me for her. Don't like the gimmick. Don't like her personality from what I've seen on Twitter, and she sucks in the ring. Well, Michael, would you like to chime in on either one of these comments about Jade Cargill from last week's question?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out. It's a bold take. I mean, you're essentially telling some icons of industry that they don't know what they're doing. They don't have any talent scouting skills, and more than that, just to the average eye, like, how do you not see it? Like, let's pretend we do have a little bit of the case of, not super polished in the ring, which in my opinion is not the case.
No.
How do you look at her and not go, she's a star? And so it's a bold take. I wish you well, and we'll check back in with you here in just a few short months when you are belligerently wrong.
Well said. And also the fact that I'm sorry you guys just spent a crap ton of money on this girl. I think you should fire her. Okay, but I do appreciate that you guys are chiming in on our questions. I'll say that. So thank you for doing that. We'll have a new question for you coming up here at the end of the show, so keep it here, and we'll invite you to chime in. Speaking of bold moves, moving to some big AEW news. No, not a major announcement from Dynamite of, hey, tickets are going to be on sale soon, but one that didn't get any fanfare. It did get a press release. It is that Ric Flair is now all elite. Yes, you heard that right. Ric Flair is now All Elite. So guessing he was a little more than, just a gift to Sting a couple of weeks ago, he's now part of the team. The press release provided by AEW mentioned Flair's Woo energy drink. And sources close to Flair told Fightful this week about some of that deal, and that it was very similar to the Randy Savage WCW deal back in the 90s. Part of getting Flair was also procuring a deal with that energy drink, his energy drink, that would actually cover a significant portion, if not all, of Ric Flair's salary in All Elite Wrestling. Let's talk Ric Flair stock. What's that name bring to AEW? And let's also talk about involvement. Where do you see Rick fitting into the AEW landscape moving forward, especially after hearing a deal is done?
I don't think it hurts anything. I think with all the start-stop on Flair for the last few years, final matches, not final matches, I could go again, him constantly teasing one more. I think the initial thought is like, oh, we're exhausted with the idea of Ric Flair. But if we take a minute, we breathe, there's a lot there. I look at Arn Anderson's time with the company. He did do some on-screen stuff, but more than anything, you were paying the guy for experience, knowledge, and the ability to shepherd, a crew of guys. Yeah. And I don't see Flair being any different. If he steps into the ring, like up the steps into the ring, we need to avoid that. we need to avoid that at all costs. But, as a mouthpiece, as a general manager, as a manager for a talent, there's a lot of value there. And so even if they're finding odd jobs for him to do on and off camera, the reality of the situation is you cannot throw away 50, 60 years in the business and the knowledge that's there. So plus, on a more strange thing that came to my mind, this is one of those guys that has worked for all or almost all of the big wrestling organizations on the planet, over the last however many years. And so why not just keep rounding it out as new industries come in?
You bet.
And say, hey, you know what? AEW is the only place I haven't been. Let's make it happen.
Let's do it. Yeah. Ric Flair is a part of something new that we're going to do this week, something called The Vault. Coming up next week, we're getting the world premiere of The Iron Claw, the movie releasing nationwide December 22nd. It stars Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White portraying Kevin and Kerry Von Erich. Of course, the brothers in the famed wrestling family dynasty back in the 80s in Dallas, Texas, and world-class championship wrestling, the wrestling that I grew up watching as a young kid. If you followed that regional territory at all back then, or if you've dove into the territory tab on the WWE Network on Peacock, you probably know about Kerry Von Erich beating Ric Flair at Texas Stadium for the NWA World's Championship. That's right, a stadium show back in the 1980s. This was not common at all. And of course, the Texas Stadium, home of the Dallas Cowboys, the place was packed. Now, not by today's standards by any means, but to have more than 30,000 people show up at a non-pay-per-view show, just a special event inside Texas Stadium in the 80s for professional wrestling, that was unheard of. And Kerry Von Erich won that championship. It was on May 6th, 1984. Now, that's not the match that I want to dig into the vault on. Kerry won the NWA World's title with a backslide on Ric Flair in that match. But what many don't know, and that many have never seen, is that Kerry dropped the title back to Ric Flair only 18 days later, but this match was in Japan. Now, back then, we didn't have YouTube. And if you had it on any kind of video, it might have been on some kind of VHS that somebody shipped to you that you maybe watched a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years later. If you watched the Kerry match where he won the title, you need to go see the match where he loses the title over in Japan. So here's the deal. We're going to start this week with The Vault. If you check out the description of this show, you can find the link to that match to watch on YouTube. It's under the heading called the Vault, and we'll bring you a new one, one of those must-watch classic matches here on the show each and every week. So I'm excited for you to check that out. It's in the description of this show right now. I'll be attending the world premiere of The Iron Claw, and we'll be bringing my review here to this podcast on next week's show. And man, I am stoked. I'm excited about this. Like I said, it's the wrestling that I grew up on and the family that everybody loved, and to get to see the movie about their family is going to be a lot of fun. Now, just yesterday there was another premiere of sorts, the premiere of a brand new episode of the Manchild Chronicles. I know you, Ryan, John, and Jay were hanging out, doing what man children do. Tell us about this latest episode, man.
Well, this is a follow-up episode. You know, occasionally we'll have two-parters.
Yeah.
I told you guys last week that we engaged in a game of movie roulette, which is, selecting a pile of movies, some okay, some good, most not so great. And this week is the review episode after having a chance to watch that movie. We always invite you guys to watch those with us, even if you haven't seen this movie yet. If you're just now finding out about the Manchild Chronicles, come in anyway. We actually had a great movie this week that I won't tell you about because you got to tune in to find out what movie it is. We had a great time, and to follow that up, we had a great time of playing one of our favorite games called The Boardroom, which is where each guy comes up with less than ideal movie sequels and pitches you the description live. And I guarantee you're not going to want to miss hearing about some of the lesser known sequels out there in The Boardroom. So come join us on the Manchild Chronicles podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts or here on YouTube.
Yeah, of course. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually go to our page and scroll to other channels that we love. Click there and watch the latest, because you can find the Manchild Chronicles channel underneath that heading. If you're listening on the free iHeartRadio app, hit the description of this episode. There's a link to the Manchild Chronicles podcast right there. Now, since CM Punk's confrontation at All In London with Jungle Boy and his subsequent departure, there were almost immediate rumors of Punk showing back up in WWE. It was odd, because it was almost like maybe a day between the two before the rumors started, particularly at this year's Survivor Series is where a lot of these rumors were headed, which takes place in Punk's hometown of Chicago, of course, the weekend of Thanksgiving. Side note here, what has Chicago done so right that they get all this pro wrestling love? They easily have like 6 to 10 shows from the big two every single year in their city. Are they doing something that the rest of the world is not?
I think they've always just proven themselves to be a hot crowd. There are a few places similar, we know, with Brooklyn. There are just some crowds. Same thing with Philly. And there's just some of those hot crowds that you can always count on being vocal one way or another. I think the bigger question for me is not why Chicago gets all the events, but why CM Punk can only come or go in Chicago.
It's the only place. Yeah, if you haven't something from Chicago, make sure you invite CM Punk. Back to him real quick. His rumors in WWE, it made their sources almost immediately come out and say, listen, we don't want anybody buying Survivor Series tickets expecting to see CM Punk. But according to reports this week from Fightful, the unofficial / kind of official stance on CM Punk is not at this moment. Well, that's a big difference to, you don't buy tickets expecting to see him, saying, well, not at this moment. Punk was even asked in an interview, a radio interview this week, if he'd be at Survivor Series, and he replied with, I don't know, isn't that thing almost sold out? I heard tickets were pretty hard to get a hold of, kind of making like that he'd have to buy a ticket to get in. I'll be honest, at the half denials and kind of the sidestepping humor that seems to come along with this, it's got me wondering, is this just a swerve, bro?
First of all, I appreciate the bro going old school.
I didn't have time to get a pad for it. I'm sorry. I'll get a bro pad on the next episode.
You need to do it. You need to do it because we need that a lot.
Yes.
I don't know what to think at this point, if I'm being honest with you. You can never say never. Yeah. When we saw the Ultimate Warrior come full circle, in the 2010s, and making up with Vince and coming into the company, and doing that whole thing. As much as there's bad blood or was bad blood between CM Punk and the WWE, nothing compared to the Ultimate Warrior. I mean,
True.
that guy, hell froze over when that guy came back. And so you can never say never, but it still seems a little far-fetched. I think over time, time heals all wounds. I think there's bridges that can be built, but are they realistically built in 2 months after you get fired from another company?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. And do I think that we're going to see CM Punk at Survivor Series? I believe the answer is no. Do I think we could potentially see CM Punk in the lead up to WrestleMania long after the first of the year?
Right.
Maybe. By Rumble? Maybe. Before Rumble, I'll be shocked. And so I think there's possibilities, but I think we are long putting the cart before the horse by saying that he's going to show up within days of his non-compete being completed with AEW.
Yeah, Royal Rumble might be a better place, because that's where you do get surprises, and especially after everyone thinking that he might be at Survivor Series, not showing up at Survivor Series but showing up at Royal Rumble might be kind of cool. Feel free to chime in with your thoughts. Are all these CM Punk denials actually a swerve on us, the fans? And will we see him at Survivor Series this year? Drop a comment on this episode with your thoughts, or connect with us on Instagram at WrestleChat Podcast. Coming up at 12 noon Eastern this morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, it's WWE's Crown Jewel from Saudi Arabia. Honestly, did find it interesting that they still decided to go through with this event, given the conflict that's going on so close by. However, one would assume that, of course, WWE and TKO have taken all security measures to ensure the safety of the stars and everybody in attendance. The same cannot be said for many of the titles, though, that are up for grab today. And since this is getting ready to start, let's go ahead and jump into this and give maybe our thoughts on each of these matches that have been announced on the card. I'm excited about this because WWE is bringing back the kickoff match. Of course, we know there's a kickoff show, and that will start 1 hour before the PLE. We're going to see a match between Sami Zayn and JD McD. This entire card is absolutely stacked, and it extends beyond the normal PLE card and goes all the way to the kickoff match, because this is a big one. I'd love to see, a great showing for JD, just because he's new to the main roster, but he's kind of in this role of being a whipping boy at the moment. So I kind of pretty much expect Sami Zayn to come out victorious in this match. What about you, Michael?
I'm not sure. Let me tell you this. I love Sami Zayn, but my love for Sami Zayn has not touched anything in the universe of how much I love JD McD. I think he's put on just a master class of how to break into the main roster. He plays his role well. Just anything athletically we've seen him do with wrestling has just been butter. And so there's something about him that has really caught on with me. And not only do I think he's got a bright future, but I think that future could be sooner rather than later. I think there's so many different angles. I know we got a lot of matches to go through, so I won't fanboy too much. But I think there's a lot of angles this could come from. Do we see the Judgment Day come out and help him? Do we see a relationship building where even Damien Priest comes out and helps him after all their scuffles? But regardless, again, as much as I love Sami Zayn, I would love to see JD McD come out on top. I think the guy needs the rub. I think it would be smart to give him the rub. And I'm just looking forward to that match solely just to watch these two guys go at it. It's going to be a banger.
Up next, let's go Solo Sikoa versus John Cena. Win or lose, this is no doubt a big showing for Solo Sikoa. With Cena's time, of course, limited, I assume that he's going to get back to work relatively quickly. I say work as in making movies again. I kind of expect him to share this win with Solo, but what about you? What do you think in this match?
I think it could go either way. Solo is still young enough in his career. Will you get the win over Cena? Some of one, half a dozen of another. Yeah. All I can say is, like you said initially, what an honor to be a part of, John Cena's potentially last run or one of his last runs, and just cool to see young and not old, but old, coming together to put on a great match. I know it's going to be good, and my only thoughts on that is, man, Solo, soak it in on the personal side.
Yes.
Because it's going to be something cool to be a part of.
I bet he did not think that he was going to get a chance to wrestle John Cena when he came up to the main roster. So this is a treat, I'm sure. The first match here for a title: Rey Mysterio versus Logan Paul. This one for the United States title. We talked about this match a little bit last week here on the show. I could see Logan leaving with the strap around his waist, and I kind of think that it might be just to set up something bigger and longer, maybe a feud between he and Santos Escobar, and that would allow the LWO to stay intact. We got teased a little bit for Rey and Santos and maybe something breaking up this group there, but that didn't happen, and we've seen them unite. Do they unite and stay intact and go up against Logan Paul? What about you? What do you think in this match?
I think you're right on with and I would say the linchpin to the whole thing, the thing that's going to make the difference, is truly Carlito. I think with Carlito stepping into the picture, I think it would make a lot of sense for Santos to go rogue, or maybe even Carlito to go rogue. But either way, with the addition of Carlito, there's too many cooks in the kitchen now. And so I would hope that one of these two guys steps out for, another storyline. But flipping over, don't want that storyline to eclipse what Logan Paul could potentially do as a United States champion. We have gone on and on multiple times on this show about how great Logan Paul is, despite not him being our personal flavor, outside of WWE.
Sure.
But man, how cool would it be to see him carrying around that beautiful belt, on the podcast that he does, red carpet events. You're talking about such massive exposure for WWE in a lot of different ways, and take it down to its simplest, most vain form. That guy is going to look like a champion carrying that strap.
No doubt.
And so I'm all for Logan Paul walking out as the United States champion.
No doubt. There is a 5-way for the women's world title. Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Starks, all taking on Rhea Ripley. I personally do not see Rhea dropping this title anytime soon, possibly for years. Your thoughts, Michael?
Same. If she does drop it, we riot. I'm a big Rhea Ripley fan, as is most of the world right now. Yeah. I want this match to go well, but historically in these matches, things usually get a little sloppy from a performance standpoint.
Yeah.
We have some players in this match who shall remain nameless, to not disrespect, but have a hard time when sequencing and timing matters. And so I really hope we get a great match. I hope nobody is injured or anything like that. And we'll hope for the best, but Rhea Ripley coming out still your Women's World Heavyweight Champion.
And remember, too, that women's matches are not common. I mean, the first one we saw was only a couple of years ago at a Crown Jewel. So to have a 5-way, you can bet all these ladies are going to be on their best game to be able to have the honor of being here and wrestling in a match on this card. Here's another one. Bianca is battling Io for the WWE Women's title. This might be the match that that kind of has no fanfare and real no buzz about, and I think it goes back to a lot with Io's group, with she and Bayley. And any chance that this one ends up with a title around Bianca's waist at the end of this match? Because I could see it happening, because I don't really see a lot going on with Io's title reign.
Io's in a similar boat that Asuka went through for a period of time, not the whole time, but when you have a champion that speaks broken English, that has a crew of people around her, it's hard to keep that momentum.
Yeah.
Io, like Asuka, is just a next level performer. I mean, can do some incredible things. I think this is the sleeper match of the whole card, because you have two people that can just make it happen in the ring. But from a storyline perspective, it is a little dry.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to see a great wrestling match, but it unfortunately leaves a little bit to be desired on the story side of things. It doesn't feel like it has big stakes, so we'll see what they do with it. But either way, whether some type of story happens or not, I think we're going to be satisfied with what we see.
the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, taking on Damien Priest. And anytime you talk about Damien at a PLE, my mind immediately goes to, cash in? I don't think the focus is necessarily going to be so much on who wins this match as it is, does it look like Damien could still go after this match is over? But what are your thoughts, Michael?
You know, cash-ins are hard to predict.
They are.
And with a lot of guys in the past that have had the Money in the Bank briefcase, they've not always been in such a centralized, visible position like Damien Priest has. It has happened before.
Yeah.
But a lot of times your Money in the Bank guy is a mid-carder that kind of hangs in the background a little bit and then comes out, cashes in, does whatever they're going to do. But with Damien Priest being on TV literally every show, it's hard to predict what's going to happen with that Money in the briefcase. Money in the Bank briefcase. Here's what I will say. Here's what I want to see. I want to see a cash-in tease on Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Damien up to this point has been very focused on the World Heavyweight Championship, which is great because, Roman has his own things going on in the other side of the universe. But how cool would it be in such a massive setting like Crown Jewel, in the middle of the match or a down moment to see Damien's music hit, for him to come out. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? I don't think it's going to happen, but it might happen. That's what I'm really hoping to see, more than, him getting a title at this event. Just seeing that danger to the, the WWE Undisputed Championship would be really, really awesome. So we'll just have to wait and see.
This next match is actually where I see a cash-in coming, or maybe just a tease at a cash-in coming. No, I'm going to say a cash-in coming today. And it's in the Seth Rollins-Drew McIntyre match for the world title. I say this, cash-in route, Damien wins it. Non-cash-in route, Drew wins it. Either way, Seth leaves Saudi Arabia without gold. How about that for a bold statement? What do you think?
That's bold. We have talked about Seth was the right decision for the World Heavyweight Championship,
I think so too.
Being the guy to carry it through. He was absolutely the right decision. It is wearing off. It's time for him to kind of do something else. Here's the thing, though. I've not been a Drew McIntyre champion fan. We've talked about that sometime over the last month, I think, but my bullet points are, he always had that Rocky Maivia vibe to me. He was just always squeaky clean. I'm going to do it for the people, whatever it may be. And we've seen a little bit more gritty version of Drew McIntyre, which is great. I don't think it's there yet. And so I would leave a little disappointed, not because of what Drew is capable of or his look or his attitude, but I just think he needs a little bit more time in the crock pot to come back out the other side as a champion. So my hope, based on what you've proposed, is that Damien will go ahead and grab that up and complete the Judgment Day, assuming all the gold.
Cool.
Reckoning back to one of my favorite times in pro wrestling of Evolution, Triple H, Ric Flair, Batista, Randy Orton. Man, that's just a cool thing to have with a faction when you just eat up all the gold. And so I'm gonna, if what you're saying is true, I'm gonna be rooting for Damien Priest to walk out with a cash.
Well, and if he doesn't and Drew does win, let's say Drew does win, I could see that happening because of what they did on Monday, with reckoning back to the time that he was a champion with no audience whatsoever. And I thought it was cool that they brought that back up. And was it for a reason? Sure, it was for a reason, but was the reason for him to win the title, or was it just to tease us and give some story to it? We'll have to wait and see, but we won't have to wait long. That match is coming up here in just a little bit. One more here. Let me talk to you. LA Knight challenges the head of the table. Yeah, Roman Reigns for the WWE Undisputed Universal title. I'm predicting shenanigans. And I think that's a safe bet. Just looking at the history of Roman Reigns matches over the last, 3 years or so, I think it's huge showing for LA Knight, obviously, to see what he can do in a main event at a premium live event. But any chance of him leaving with the title, Michael?
No.
No, I don't think so either.
Hard no.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
This is the trickiest situation you can be in from a booker and a promoter standpoint. You have your longest reigning champion of modern era. You have the hottest guy in wrestling right now. How do you book it? And so shenanigans is one. What I'm hoping to see is LA Knight controlling most of the match, standing up to Roman and giving him a run for his money. And if that happens, it's okay that LA Knight loses clean. It's okay. But what I don't want to see is Roman own most of the match, placing him kind of a good chunk above LA Knight, and then shenanigans happens. It just kind of makes it'll make it look like that LA Knight is out of place, which he is not. And so I hope they handle this with a lot of care when it comes to the booking. Shenanigans, fine. Roman, kind of having the upper hand on LA Knight, fine. But just not all of the above. Yeah. So I don't think we're going to see a title change hands. You can't say never in wrestling, but regardless, give us a great match. Take care of what needs to happen with LA Knight in the future, and it'll be something great to watch.
I can't wait to watch this one with you. Listen, if you're on X, let's be sure and connect there. I'm at the Ant-Man. I'll be tweeting or Xing or whatever throughout this premium live event. So I'll connect with you there.
Twixing.
Yeah, Twixing. That's right. I forgot. Thank you, Eric Bischoff. We're going to leave you with a question this week like we have the last couple of weeks. Hit our Instagram. It's at WrestleChat Podcast. You'll see this post right here and comment on it. Here's the question. It's true or false, and why? Ric Flair will wrestle another match in AEW. This should be a lot of fun. Tell us true or false to that statement, and then tell us why you think that, okay? So will Ric Flair wrestle another match now that he is in AEW? Again, comment on the post that you see. If you're watching right now, you see the post on your screen there. If you're not, go hit our Instagram. It's the picture of Ric Flair. And comment on that post at WrestleChat Podcast on Instagram. You can find us there, and you can follow us too and stay connected throughout the week. All right, Michael, you ready for another Nature Boy match?
We'll have to see how that looks next week.
Okay, got it. You're going to make us wait for it. That's good. We got to run. We got to get ready for Crown Jewel. That's getting ready to start here in just a little bit. So that'll do it for this week. For Michael Glavin, I'm the Ant-Man, and we'll see you next week on iHeart's official weekly wrestling podcast. This is the WrestleChat Podcast. We'll see you then.